Good afternoon. My name's Joshua Murphy, and I did my final project on Chicago crime from 2005 to 2018. I found a data set on Kaggle.com that actually had crime data from 2001 all the way through 2019, but it was a fairly large data set, and my computer could only handle so much, so we reduced it to 2005 and 2018 for Tableau. The data set contained a lot of different information, things like where the location took place, what type of crime, the geographic location, were they arrested or not, and it was a really interesting data set to work with. I only pulled out these top eight different crimes because I didn't want to, like I said, my computer could only handle so much, and I thought these were popular crimes that people would want to seek information about. On the top here, you can actually highlight if you click on one of them, and it will change the data throughout the whole dashboard to only reflect what those crimes are, what all of the information for that select crime. Or you can have none selected, and the dashboard will present the information for all of the crimes put together. Sorry, it takes a little while because there's so much data. So we'll wait for that to close. Okay, so coming down, this first graph just shows the number of crimes starting in 2005 all the way through 2018. And you can kind of see that most of the crimes have been decreasing over the years, which is really interesting to see because I remember growing up as a kid, you always heard about Chicago crime and how it's so bad and dangerous to go there. But you can see Chicago has really worked and improved their law enforcement and whatnot so that a lot of these have been decreasing. And I did some research to try to figure out what that, what could be contributing to this, and there's no specific reason that they found so far, but they think that they have increased their law enforcement. The economy has been fairly good despite the recession in 2008, which even still, if you look at this graph, crime was still going down during those times. In addition to that, there's also been increased sentences for certain crimes, so people are staying in jail longer. And also an aging population. People are getting older, there's less babies being made, so that also, and also Chicago is an older city, so that also has an effect on crime. You can go through and you can click on a specific one if you want to look at it. Or like I said, we'll click on narcotics and we'll use this throughout the rest of the dashboard. So we'll wait for it to load. This also is a picture. If you click on it, it'll take you to the Chicago Police website where you can report a crime if you need to. That's not an emergency. If there is an emergency, I would definitely suggest you call 911 to report it as soon as possible. Going on, you can see this is the geographic location of all the crimes that have been committed for this year in 2018 for narcotics. Now, obviously, this is very hard to determine what's going on, so this is the list of all the different crimes that happen under the narcotics division. And so we can go through and click a specific one, like let's say possession of cocaine. This is all the incidences that were recorded when they caught someone with cocaine. You can see here a lot of it's kind of clustered around this middle area of Chicago, kind of to the southeast. And you can bring it all the way back using this. It might take a while, and you can see over, back in 2005, there was a lot more cocaine being distributed. And over the years, if you hit play, it's a bit, it lags a bit because there's so much information. It's gradually gone down, which reflects back to that original graph we saw, seeing how crime has decreased. So this is a really interesting graph, and you'll see later on that these specific wards, if you hover over them, there are certain wards that are tend to have more crime in them than others. On this graph, this actually tells you the type of location where a certain crime was committed. So for narcotics, it's not surprising that sidewalk is where most of them are caught, or the street. And then alley is significantly behind. But yeah, I think this is a nice graph that kind of usually for each crime, there's two, maybe three big areas where a certain crime is committed. And then there's the rest of them are fairly equally distributed. But if you actually highlight or hover over a certain location, this will tell you the top 10 crimes that are committed within that area. Uh, for the sidewalk, you have narcotics and battery, robbery. For the street, it's theft and criminal damage, motor vehicle theft, which isn't surprising. Usually people are vandalizing people's cars, stealing cars, things like that. Or they're caught driving off with the items that they stole, things like that. So, anyway, I think this is a very interesting graph. If you want to learn more about which areas you're more likely to be a victim of a certain crime. Moving on, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of where these crimes are happening in Chicago. So with this graph, it lists all 50 wards that are located in Chicago, which are basically like counties. And if a ward is blue, that means that the selected crime is below average for being recorded in that selected ward. Or if it's red, it's above average. And if you highlight over the wards, it'll actually give you the top crimes committed for that selected ward for the 8 crimes that I studied for this data set. And so you can see that most of the wards have their biggest crimes are either narcotics or theft. But I think it's very interesting. If you were planning a trip to Chicago, you might want to be aware of what you could be a victim of if you were walking around, or if you're trying to reduce a certain crime within an area. This will tell you where you need to start, what crimes you need to start with first, and definitely reducing that selected crime. So this right here is just kind of a picture of the different crimes. You can see you start with 2 here, and then it kind of increase going down, and then go up here to the 40s and then the 50s. So it's kind of interesting how they numbered them, but I think that's significant to know as we look at which wards are more likely to have a crime committed. So I found that most of them are in the central area between 2 and 24, 28. And obviously you can see with this graph that is the case. For the R analysis, I wanted to show there is significance or relationships between the ward and crimes. And certain wards do have more crimes committed, so I ran a linear regression. And this is what I found, that most of these have a significant relationship if you look at their p-values, meaning that certain crimes are more likely to have certain crimes committed in them. And you can look at the coefficients and really see the outliers, such as like Ward 28 has, a plus 55. Ward 2 has 43. Let's see, another one, 24 has 40, and that coincides with this graph up here, and it is also inside the central location of Chicago over here. Going on, we also wanted to see if certain crimes are more significant than others, and running that regression, we did find that there are crimes that are committed way more than others, such as we have down here theft with 210. Let's see, narcotics was another big one with 110 here. Battery is 188. So compared to other crimes, these are the big outliers. The ones that are most likely to happen or for people to be a victim of. And then with this picture right here, we also wanted to see if crime had been significantly increasing or decreasing in a select ward over time. So not overall, because we obviously know crime's been going down overall with the first graph that we looked at. But we want to see if certain wards were decreasing significantly over time. And surprisingly, there was not a significant relationship. There is no low p-values over here. So that's kind of interesting how crime overall has gone down significantly, but within each ward, not significantly. And it's kind of interesting, while there isn't a significance, you can see that some wards are actually increasing in crime while others are decreasing. So if we look at like 2 here, ward number 2, we can see that was a area that was heavily populated with crime has actually gone down. But other areas where it's a suburb have actually increased. So I think that's something to kind of look forward to in the future, that yes, crime may be going down overall, but is the crime moving out more towards the suburbs, or is it only going down in the central location? Like, what's happening? Where is it spreading to? I think also for a future study, it would be cool to try to find a way to incorporate how increased law enforcement or certain laws that have come out, or the economy, how that also has played a part in how crime has been affected in Chicago, kind of how I listed those other factors earlier. And I think also including the population for each ward and getting a crime rate, because for this dashboard, it just reflects the number of crimes that were committed. It's not actually a crime rate, because I didn't have the population for each ward. But if I could find that data, I think that would also be cool if there was more research to be done on this subject. So this is my project. If you have any questions, I guess you can email me. But yes, thank you for listening.